How to survive when there's no electricity and what to prepare for this winter, I'll tell you all about it right now. Hello friends, I'm Irina Prokofkievna and this is TSN. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, watch the broadcast and be sure to comment on what you found most interesting. Let's get started. Last night, on October 11th, the Russians launched 78 drones at Ukraine, more than 40 of which were Shaheds. They attacked from Oryol, Milerovo-Kursk, and from occupied Crimea, from Cape Chowda. The night assault was countered by electronic warfare and drone system units, as well as mobile fire teams. Our air defenders shot down and suppressed 54 drones in the north and northeast. Strikes were recorded at 6 locations. After the night shelling, power outage schedules are in effect in Odesa region. The Russians hit a substation. Emergency crews promised to restore electricity by the end of the day. A woman was injured, and 24 more Odesa residents required psychological assistance. The number of power company workers killed by the shelling in Chernihiv region has risen to 2, with 3 more injured. And during the aftermath response, the Russians struck again, this time hitting another vehicle belonging to the power workers and also the firefighters. Due to the morning enemy shelling in the Kherson region, a resident of Bilozerka was killed and another person sustained blast injuries. Both men were in the yard at the moment the drone struck. A passerby in Kherson was also hospitalized in serious condition. In the Kharkiv region, 3 people were injured due to enemy shelling. In Chuhuiv, an employee of an enterprise was wounded. In Semenivka, a drone injured a married couple. The Russians killed 2 people in Serhivka, Donetsk region. 4 people were injured in Kostiantinivka when the occupiers struck the private sector. 2 people were injured by drones in the Sumy region as well. In Nikopol, a Russian FPV drone killed a 23-year-old woman. It hit the store where she worked as a saleswoman. As a result of another attack, a man was injured. A store, an apartment building, and infrastructure were damaged. More than 800,000 families in the capital have electricity again. This was reported by DTEC. Repair work and reinforced teams of power engineers were carried out continuously. For almost a day now, they have been working to eliminate local outages. Water has also appeared in the taps. All trams and trolleybuses have returned to their usual routes. The metro is also running without delays. They have already managed to restore power to some consumers in the Kyiv region. There were more than 110,000 subscribers without electricity there. They and critically important enterprises were immediately switched to alternative energy sources after yesterday's Russian attacks. But eliminating the consequences of the shelling and restoring power to homes in the border areas is very difficult due to the complicated security situation. To avoid overloading the system, Ukrainians are being asked to use resources rationally and not to turn on several powerful household appliances at the same time. It is worth recalling that the day before, the Russians launched nearly 1,000 missiles and drones. Once again, the main targets were energy facilities. And now more about how Ukrainians are resisting the darkness. Because the Russians are striking at the energy sector and cold weather is ahead. Some regions of Ukraine are regularly left without power. Is it possible that this year not only electricity but also gas outage schedules could be introduced? And what solutions have the residents of an apartment building found to stay connected even during a blackout? TSN correspondent Natalia Tkachuk will tell you more.
Here is this 8th way to protect against possible blackouts.
Dnipro lives in a private house in Sumy. Due to strikes on critical infrastructure, the city has scheduled and special emergency power outage schedules in place. But the man was prepared for such a scenario.
I have 2 of these stations. I use one for working on my laptop, charging various gadgets, phones, and power banks. And this one powers the boiler, the refrigerator, the lighting in the room overall. And thanks to it, these outlets in this room work.
Back in 2023, Dnipro bought his first generator. But he says that over the past 2 years with the outages, he discovered quite a few of its shortcomings.
But honestly, it's a really significant amount of hassle. You constantly have to meticulously pour in precisely the right type of gasoline and the correct kind of oil. It's also quite loud, and having to start it up all the time isn't very convenient.
Dnipro also has a couple of powerful power banks at home which keep the internet router running, and also flashlights and battery-powered lamps.
There's also a kind of USB stick that works as a lamp and can run for days from a power bank.
In case everything runs out of power and to avoid freezing, there's a fireplace in the house and firewood in the shed. Dnipro also made sure to stock up on water, and he bought a portable gas stove as well.
And if circumstances become truly challenging, as an ultimate last resort, we provide a robust outdoor grill where you can also expertly cook a wonderfully delicious dinner, utilizing the natural warmth and rustic charm of crackling firewood.
This is exactly how the residents of Shoska are getting by. In pots, over campfires, on grills, and even on bricks over a candle. Local residents are sharing footage on social media of how they set up improvised kitchens in their courtyards and near building entrances.
At least there's some romance in the yard. You don't have to go anywhere.
Last night, the Russians repeated a crime from 3 years ago. On October 10, 2022, the Russian Federation carried out a massive attack on Ukraine's energy facilities. A number of regions were left without power, and part of the capital was also left in the dark.
Breakfast started quite late today, primarily because to prepare it properly, you absolutely need water, and there hasn't been any available in our entire neighborhood since last night, so I truly had to run to the store.
Early in the morning, dozens of people with bottles lined up for water.
We were luckier because we still have electricity. We have electricity, as you can see, there's no water, but at least we have electricity.
We had a little left at home, so we used that, but just in case, we'll get some more. We're hoping they'll turn the water back on.
Barista Victoria, despite the shelling, opened the coffee shop according to schedule. At 6 in the morning,
At night, the water and electricity were turned off, so we got ready for work using a flashlight. We have bottled water, they deliver water to us. And if there's no electricity, we connect the generator.
due to Russian strikes on critical infrastructure, Ukrainians this winter may be left not only without electricity, but also without gas, says energy efficiency expert Sviatoslav Pavlyuk.
They have disabled a significant portion of extraction capacity, which means that this imported portion will have to be increased. And in some cities, we may experience gas outages. Accordingly, options for such cases could be, first of all, if we're talking about cooking, some portable solutions, portable gas camping cylinders, portable stoves. These could be electric stoves if, again, there is electric heating.
This scenario is the hardest for residents of high-rise buildings. The head of the condominium association of one of the residential buildings in Kyiv, Natalia Rivkina, shows TSN the equipment that will save the residents of her building during outages.
This is our inverter, which converts solar electricity, and this is our battery. It's like a little battery that charges and discharges. When there's no electricity, we take power from this battery.
The building generates its own energy thanks to a solar power station. It was installed on the roof in January of this year.
The solar power station consists of 30 panels. It generates 15 kilowatts.
Natalia says that's enough, and during short power outages, the building's elevator kept working and the apartment still had heating and cold water.
The entire project cost $800,000. We received a grant of $436,000. That's 70% of the equipment cost. And we raised another $400,000 from the residents of our building. That's about 80 hryvnias per square meter. If your apartment is 30 square meters, that's 200 to 400.
Thanks to government grant programs, the residents were also able to insulate the building and install an individual heating unit.
It is powered by electricity and alternative energy sources. This way, heat continues to flow into the apartments.
Natalia's apartment also has an inverter and a battery installed, but of lower capacity.
So the outlets work, the lights work. If I get up early in the morning, I can dry my hair with a hairdryer. I can heat up food in the microwave. And the refrigerator will keep working as well. So
Natalia believes that with this kind of preparation, she and her neighbors will be able to get through this winter comfortably.
I hope that after 4 years, our country has prepared for the big things. And that each individual household has also prepared. So for us, it won't be some kind of catastrophe anymore.
Natalia Tachuka, Andrei Marchenko, Oksana Solodovnik, TSN.
Freed prisoners of war will receive 50,000 hryvnias per month. The president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, has signed a law on payments to servicemen released from captivity who have illnesses requiring long-term inpatient treatment. According to the new law, military personnel who, after being released from captivity, require long-term inpatient treatment for more than 30 days will receive a monthly payment of 50,000 hryvnias. The payments will be made during the first 3 months of treatment. In addition, the law regulates the procedure for issuing certificates regarding injuries or illnesses sustained by military personnel during captivity in order to avoid bureaucratic obstacles. Before the adoption of the new law, payments were provided only to military personnel who had sustained wounds, concussions, or disabilities while in captivity. The new document extends this support to those who developed or experienced an exacerbation of serious illnesses while in captivity. They destroy enemy equipment and eliminate enemy personnel. Fighters from the 93rd Separate Mechanized Brigade showed how, the day before, they struck the enemy near Pokrovsk. There, taking advantage of bad weather conditions, the occupiers tried to launch an assault, but they were unable to hide from the vigilance of our defenders. At the same time, Ukrainian soldiers are certain that the attacks will continue today as well, so they are preparing to repel enemy assaults. Overall, over the past day on the front, the General Staff recorded 234 combat engagements, about a third of them in the Pokrovsk direction. The Russians are also actively trying to advance on the Lyman, Kostiantynivka, Kupiansk, Oleksandrivka, and southern Slobozhansky sectors. They spare neither people nor equipment. Even though the enemy's losses have already exceeded 1,121,000 wounded and killed. For example, in the Ocheretine direction, the enemy carried out a massive assault on positions held by our guys from the 1st Corps of the National Guard of Ukraine, Azov. As a result of the assault, 35 units of enemy equipment were destroyed, more than 100 occupiers were killed, and over 50 more were wounded. At the same time, according to the analytical portal Deep State, the occupiers managed to advance in Poltavka, Nekonorivka, and Kotliny in the Donetsk region. A deep strike on the Bashneft oil refinery. Today, SBU drones once again reached Ufa in the Republic of Bashkortostan, striking the Bashneft oil refinery. The facility is located 1,400 kilometers from Ukraine, and this is already the third time in the past month that drones have hit Bashkortostan. Eyewitnesses report that after the explosion, special equipment began arriving at the refinery and thick black smoke was rising above the plant. They say the strike hit the crude oil processing unit, and we are still waiting for details about the damage. Powerful explosions and thick smoke were also observed in Volgograd. The rumbling and blast there started around 2 in the morning. The drone attack was later confirmed by the regional governor, and the enemy Ministry of Defense reported that air defense had shot down 19 drones. However, there were some unpleasant incidents. Debris from the downed drones reportedly damaged 3 apartment buildings. Windows were blown out in a school and a kindergarten. A few days earlier, on October 9th, UAVs were already circling over the Volgograd region. They also tested the strength of the boiler house and the Lukoil oil refinery. Every year, this enterprise processes 15 tons of oil. Earlier attacks on the region and the plant were recorded on September 18th and August 22nd. An unexpected phone call. The President of Ukraine and the leader of the United States of America had an unexpected phone conversation today. Volodymyr Zelensky noted that the conversation was good and productive. He said that he congratulated Donald Trump on his success and the deal for the Middle East. He also expressed hope that if it was possible to stop that war, it will also be possible to stop the Russian-Ukrainian one. The President of Ukraine informed his American counterpart about Russian strikes on the energy sector. The leaders discussed possibilities for strengthening our air defense. There are strong ideas that will truly strengthen Ukraine, Zelensky wrote. The last time they communicated, they also discussed strengthening Ukraine's air defense and agreed to deepen cooperation in this area. Who knows, maybe it was this very conversation that prompted the American leader to consider the possibility of providing our defense forces with the most popular long-range cruise missile and Tomahawk air defense missiles. New entry requirements for the European Union. Starting tomorrow, passport stamps will be replaced by digital registration. An automated database will start operating, which will record all crossings of the EU's external borders by citizens of third countries, including Ukraine. The system involves 5 main actions: taking a facial photo, scanning 4 fingerprints for those aged 12 and older, collecting data from the passport, as well as recording the date and place of border crossing, and any cases of entry refusal, if there were any. It is important to note that this system applies exclusively to those entering the European Union visa-free for up to 90 days. The system will be implemented gradually. At Ukrainian border checkpoints, everything will remain as it was. And TSN had the new rules commented on by the spokesperson of the State Border Guard Service, Andriy Demchenko. Germany's constitution in its current form prevents the country from shooting down Russian drones in its own airspace. It turned out that Germany cannot counter such threats because of the wording that was added to the German constitution after World War II. At that time, the document was created in such a way as to prevent a repeat of the Nazi past. The Bundeswehr was forbidden from intervening in internal security matters to prevent a repeat of the scenario where the Nazis used the army to suppress dissent and political opponents. And now, some of these provisions prevent the country from properly responding to the Kremlin's aggressive actions. This was reported by Politico. Current legislation allows the Bundeswehr to shoot down drones only over military bases, and the German Defense Committee emphasizes the need for legislative changes. However, Chancellor Merz's coalition currently has a weak majority in parliament, and a vote on changes to the basic law could fail. So for now, Germany remains vulnerable to drone attacks from Russia. In your opinion, under whose influence was the German constitution written after World War II, the United States or the Soviet Union? Be sure to share your thoughts in the comments under this broadcast on YouTube, and also hit the like button. TSN continues its broadcast at this hour. A large-scale military parade took place in Pyongyang to mark the 80th anniversary of the founding of the ruling party of North Korea. During the ceremony, a new intercontinental ballistic missile was showcased, which North Korea has called its most powerful nuclear weapon. They claim it is capable of covering a distance of up to 15,000 kilometers. Among the invited guests were Chinese Premier Li Qiang, a Russian delegation led by Dmitry Medvedev, and representatives from Vietnam. On the eve of the parade, Kim Jong-un met with Medvedev, who spoke approvingly about the participation of North Korean troops in the war against Ukraine. Donald Trump responded to not being awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. On his social network, Truth Social, he first reposted a message from this year's laureate, Maria Corina Machado, where she initially writes that this is a tremendous honor and that she will continue her struggle. And she thanks the President of the United States, the American people, and other democratic nations of the world. Trump, speaking to journalists at the White House, said that later Maria called him and told him that she was accepting the award in his honor because he deserved it. A very nice gesture. I'm glad because I saved millions of lives, the head of the White House boasted. He also reposted a video of Putin, who spoke about how much Trump had done to achieve peace. Trump added 3 words of his own. Thank you, President Putin. After the Nobel Peace Prize winner was announced, the White House Communications Director, Stephen Chun, made an offended post. He claimed that the committee had shown it values politics over peace. But this will not stop Trump, and he will continue to make peace deals. In Kyiv, in a Lamborghini showroom, the body of a 32-year-old man with a gunshot wound to the head was found. A weapon was found nearby. Preliminary reports indicate that the deceased was an entrepreneur and blogger whose activities were related to cryptocurrency. According to TSN's own sources in the police, the man was crypto entrepreneur Kostiantin Hanic. On the eve of his death, the man told his loved ones about feeling depressed due to financial difficulties and also sent them a farewell message, law enforcement officials said. The case is being investigated under the article on intentional homicide with a note indicating suicide. A pretrial investigation is ongoing, and all the circumstances of the incident are being clarified. Kostiantin's death was confirmed on his Telegram channel, where it was written that he had tragically passed away. The cause is being determined by the investigation. $20,000 for removal from military registration. In Dnipro, an official from the district military enlistment office was detained for setting up a scheme for draft dodgers. For such a reward, he promised a medical commission's conclusion of unfitness for service, and in case of refusal, immediate mobilization instead. He was detained right after he took an advance of over $4,000. The serviceman from the enlistment office now faces up to 10 years in prison with confiscation of property. A show, extreme toy or useful transport for the military. Ukrainian defenders have long been using Buggy-type vehicles at the front for evacuation and logistics tasks. How the Buggy went from being a fun machine to a vehicle that gives an advantage on the front lines will be explained by TSN correspondent Yevgeny Hladun.
Maneuverability, speed, and reliability. These are the main factors for evacuation transport. And this is a lightweight tactical vehicle, or simply a Buggy. It accelerates up to 145 kilometers per hour, carries 500 kilograms of cargo, and also significantly simplifies the evacuation of the wounded from hotspots. For evacuation on the front line, our soldiers often use ATVs or motorcycles. However, Ukrainian Buggy manufacturers claim that this can expose soldiers to additional danger.
Unlike ATVs, which are now gaining popularity at the front, as well as the enduro motorcycle, our vehicle provides actual protection for the personnel. That is, the design of the vehicle allows all defense forces to sit, so to speak, inside a capsule. In other words, you don't have to stand up, so you are much less visible.
Inside the buggy itself, there are 2 seats, one for the driver, the other for a passenger, and also 2 spots for wounded personnel in a lying position. They are equipped with seat belts and additional cushioning.
We carefully load our wounded individuals, securely fasten them with a sturdy belt, and then efficiently transport them. Thanks to this remarkably durable type of specialized fabric here, the person's entire body weight gently presses them down, ensuring they are completely secured, and they are also enveloped in a kind of protective makeshift cocoon. So during transport, the person doesn't sway or fall out.
The main purpose of this buggy is mobile movement from point A to point B. And that means the engineers had to sacrifice armor in order to achieve higher speed.
These buggies have a 1.9 turbo diesel engine with 120 horsepower. Since it's not armored, this buggy is well suited for that power. And in my opinion, this engine is enough to pick up speed.
After a brief tour of the interior, Alexander invites us to take a ride and evaluate how the buggy performs from the inside. You can really feel that this buggy is sharp, but at the same time it doesn't lose its maneuverability or smoothness in turns, or when going over bumps. It crosses them easily, and you hardly even notice the high speed. Alexander says that this is because it has a rather low profile, which makes it easier to handle than if it were taller or larger in size. Volunteers also talk about the necessity of such vehicles as buggies on the front lines.
As a rule, right now our guys are carried by 2 servicemen manually, and this takes a very long time, which delays the provision of effective medical assistance. This particular vehicle is truly unique in that it possesses the remarkable capability to potentially save 3 precious lives all at once.
Light tactical vehicles first made a name for themselves during the legendary Operation Desert Storm. It was on buggies that American Navy SEALs burst into the city of Kuwait. In the context of the current war between Russia and Ukraine, where drones are constantly hovering overhead, vehicles of this type can also be especially useful.
It can even quickly avoid a mine meant for an APC or some other heavy-wheeled vehicle, and even escape from a drone. It can accelerate, as you've seen for yourself, to very high speeds.
This particular vehicle is heading to the Donetsk region, where it will save the lives of our defenders. And while we were preparing this story, the vehicle had already been received by the fighters of the Special Purpose Rifle Battalion of the National Police. The soldiers say that this kind of transport will definitely help them on the battlefield. It's very maneuverable and it has more than enough power, more than we even need. It will be equipped with electronic warfare systems, internet and radio communication. Yevgeny Hladun, Andriy Romanok, TSN 1+1.